Rebellious bad boy Christian Slater is the hottest actor in Hollywood in the 1990s, poised to be the next Jack Nicholson.
In Hollywood, those kinds of comparisons will either propel you to greater heights or ruin you.
It doesn't take long before Christian's equally bad boy behavior off-screen begins to seep into every facet of his life.
When you are a celebrity, you begin to think that you can act any way you want with no consequences.
With a self-destructive attitude of invincibility, Christian proceeds to destroy his illustrious career, one alcohol and drug-infused incident at a time.
All the things that are making him famous and making him rich in Hollywood are not working as well when reality starts and the movie is over.
In Hollywood, you can get away with a lot, just don't get caught.
Women, booze, and drugs. Christian's Molotov cocktail that blows his A-star status in Hollywood into 1,000,000 pieces.
If he doesn't get help, then his next step is either to jail, to a psychiatric hospital, or death.
To a celebrity, image is everything. But when that image is destroyed, can it be rebuilt? You be the judge. Celebrity Damage Control. Christian Slater rises to stardom in Hollywood, playing angst-ridden, rebellious roles in teen cult films such as Heathers and Pump Up the Volume. Armed with dangerous charm and good looks, the child actor turns into an A-list sensation. Critics and fans go crazy for the rebel with his dazzling confidence and wild renegade edge. A golden path is laid out for an illustrious Hollywood career.
At only 19, Christian is at the top of the Hollywood game.
But along with fame and notoriety, a dark side to Christian emerges. Copious drug and alcohol use, fueled by an invincible, self-destructive tough guy attitude, land him in deep waters with life-altering consequences.
The bad boy, dysfunctional roles he becomes famous for start to blur the lines between reality and make-believe.
They're just insane movies, they're insane scripts, so you tend to get a little insane.
Christian's brilliant on-screen talent is likened to legendary actors Jack Nicholson and Spencer Tracy. And it seems as though his destiny for Hollywood glory and fame is set the moment he's born. Christian is born on August 18, 1969, to showbiz parents, Mary Jo Slater, a casting agent, and Michael Hawkins, a struggling stage and soap opera actor. The proud parents pin a notice to his birth certificate: "There is no one who is greater." Christian was primed for fame. He was named Christian Michael Leonard, reportedly after Marlon Brando's character in Mutiny on the Bounty.
If those dreams weren't pushed on Christian Slater, he might have had a totally different life, and that's what parents need to be careful. It's great to have dreams for your kids, but make sure you're nurturing their dreams, not yours.
Christian spends most of his childhood surrounded by people who work in theater, film, and television. The business is in his veins.
The story goes, at 3 months old, his mother takes him out to an empty stage and kind of turns him around to where the audience would be and says, "This is your life, my son." It's as if he was destined to be a movie star.
Watching his actor father work, Christian is mesmerized by the make-believe world.
Certainly, as children, we do need role models. We do need people to teach us about life. And if we have a very good relationship with that parent, we are going to emulate a lot of what that parent does, because we see psychologically the parent gets reinforcement, and therefore we then figure out we can get the same reinforcement that our parent is getting.
Christian's first appearance on national television is on daytime soap opera One Life to Live. He's 7 years old, and everyone falls in love with his performance. That same year, Christian's parents go through a bitter divorce. The rumors are his father is an alcoholic. And suddenly, the father he idolizes disappears from his daily life.
Divorce does play havoc on children. In my experience as a psychologist, children are negatively affected. He loved his parents, he saw them together, and that was comforting for him. Now add into that rumors that your father went away because he was sick, because he was an alcoholic. That can have, and did have, a devastating effect on the young Christian Slater.
He attends the Dalton School in Manhattan, doing his best to handle his parents' divorce and a budding child acting career. Christian is auditioning for roles in TV, theater, and commercials, and doing his homework on set.
Acting comes pretty naturally to him. Going to auditions for him is like normal kids going to after-school clubs.
While on set with his mom, Christian is discovered by musical theater director Michael Kidd. Christian auditions for him by singing Zippity Doo Dah, and in 1980 is cast as an all-American boy in The Music Man. The Broadway musical stars Dick Van Dyke and runs for 21 performances. As soon as he hears the thunderous applause on opening night, 9-year-old Christian is hooked and never looks back. When The Music Man starts a 9-month bus tour across the states, with Christian on board, the real chaos of his life begins.
His mother puts him on a bus and says goodbye. She thinks he'll get this whole show business thing out of his system, but she couldn't be more wrong.
Away from home for the first time, and with no discipline or supervision, Christian is having the time of his life. He gets drunk with the cast and crew, despite being only 9 years old. Every opening night for The Music Man begins with wild parties.
There's champagne flowing, he's getting all this attention, and no one's telling him, you know, you're only 9 years old, you shouldn't be having champagne.
There needs to be supervision on the road with him, so I think that something went wrong. The earlier the exposure to alcohol, the greater the risk for long-term problems. So if it's in the early teens or even earlier, then the chances for a lifelong problem increase. In Christian Slater's case, the first exposure in childhood would absolutely create a problem. There's no doubt about it.
To young Christian, his theater family feels just like that, a family.
The closing performance of The Music Man is an emotional time for Christian. A reporter puts a mic in his face and he goes, "I can't talk right now, I'm about to cry."
It's extremely difficult to say goodbye to a cast and crew after especially a long and a successful run. But more than anything else, these are the people who became your brothers and your fathers and your sisters. And so now you go back to the real world and you leave that fantasy world of the stage, of this made-up family.
But I think that a routine of being a normal kid after having that experience would be incredibly difficult and very hard for him to just hit a stride of being a regular 9-year-old kid.
Enjoying the sweet taste of success from The Music Man, the young actor has his heart set on landing more roles. Christian's life as a young teen back in New York City is anything but normal. It doesn't take long before he is cast in one production after another, from television commercials to Broadway musicals, leading to his second job in daytime TV.
He plays a delinquent boyfriend in Ryan's Hope, the same soap that his father starred in until he was allegedly fired for troubles possibly related to alcoholism.
And often, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Boys do need their fathers because their fathers are role models as to what a man should be. And when that father, in Christian's case, was an alcoholic, now you tend to do what your father did who went away, and that is to also medicate with alcohol. You do become your own father.
A bad boy look and attitude starts to emerge in Christian. He's the cool kid on the block.
When I read this script, read this character, love you too. That's the coolest thing right there. I really am just distracted by this girl yelling my name. I'm enjoying that right now, you know, and let's talk about her.
Christian's big movie debut in 1985 is playing a gunslinging, scooter-riding outlaw in the teen caper, The Legend of Billie Jean.
Despite any insecurities he may have had about his acting, Christian really shines in his first movie role. He plays this bleach blonde outlaw guy named Binks.
Off the heels of that success, at age 16, Christian lands a role as Sean Connery's apprentice in The Name of the Rose. He is in Italy during production when once again, all hell breaks loose. He begins drinking and partying heavily. There's a lack of discipline off camera, and the taste of freedom gives Christian an attitude of invincibility. He feels he can get away with anything. Christian grew up watching Sean Connery in Bond movies, so working with him is like having a masterclass in acting and in life.
In the movie, with Sean Connery, he now starts leaning on Sean Connery as being like a father-like figure, and it makes sense. Sean Connery is this big, strong man who seems to have the right values. These are all of the things that a young man would want in a father.
But having a father figure on set doesn't stop him from losing control once the director calls cut.
Boys are tribal, and without leadership, they assume their own leadership, and it's a bad idea. They're not equipped for it. They don't have the brain development or the experience, but they're desperate for it. They want leadership, and so it makes sense that he would attach to his co-stars and look for guidance and supervision.
Once again, as it was on The Music Man, wrapping up the film after 5 months and saying goodbye to his film family is painful.
The downside to this is separation anxiety, and the pain of having to say goodbye to others becomes worse each time.
Although The Name of the Rose is considered a commercial flop, it is nevertheless the film that gives Christian his breakout role, and in the process, wins him some rave reviews.
Britain's Empire magazine gives Christian a glowing review. They say that he shows admirable unself-consciousness opposite the legendary Sean Connery.
Christian's career is moving toward Hollywood stardom, despite the absence of a stable, normal upbringing and a growing penchant for alcohol and partying. But it's all going to catch up with him soon. Christian Slater, rebellious bad boy teen actor, the type Hollywood is enchanted by, rises to fame and glory in the late 1980s. But the troubled teen starts abusing alcohol at a young age and is enjoying the fringe benefits that accompany his climbing career. Christian makes the move from New York City to Hollywood at age 17. He's an unstoppable force of raw talent and trouble.
He had already gained significant attention for his role in The Name of the Rose, but now he's getting attention for his drinking, his partying, and his womanizing.
Lots of people can ride the wave of just raw talent, and lots of people can compartmentalize areas of their life. So one area is functional, even if everything else is falling apart. So I think that that's one of the things that fuels their denial, is looking at the one functional area. And clearly that was his.
Director Francis Ford Coppola casts Christian in Tucker, the Man in His Dream. And once again, he is starstruck as he rubs shoulders with co-stars Jeff Bridges, Joan Allen, and Martin Landau.
He's learning from the best in Hollywood and soaking it all up. When the cameras are rolling, he's on his best behavior.
Offers are pouring in. With some tough decisions to make about which movies he should take on, Christian hires himself a crackerjack Hollywood publicist by the name of Susan Cully.
Hiring a publicist at the age of 17 was great advice by people who really cared about him. Susan Cully is an amazing publicist that looks at her clients in the long term, and so she develops the image for a very, very long term to ensure more work.
Christian also moves out of the house he shared with his mother and moves in with actress-girlfriend of 3 years, Kim Walker. He's making good money, but going through it faster than he can count it.
What would anybody do if they were given that money at that age? They'd buy cars and take trips and pick up bar tabs for all their friends. It's not that he's behaving in a way that is unreasonable, really. I mean, if his handlers couldn't contain that particular behavior, it absolutely makes sense that he would do that.
When the script for the teen film Heathers lands in Christian's lap, he's drawn to the dark film despite warnings from his mother and publicist to stay away. Both he and Kim land roles, he as an out-of-control, mysterious psychopath, and Kim as a popular yet nasty high school student.
The risk here was he had already done several things with that kind of a character in it, and he ran the risk of being typecast.
He's got this bad boy reputation, and Hollywood is responding to that. They're offering him roles that mirror that image.
The black teen comedy turns into a cult classic in 1988.
It becomes a catharsis for Christian Slater, as it does for many actors and actresses, playing roles, being attracted to roles where they can work out a lot of their own issues. It makes for a great performance, it makes for a great catharsis, it makes for a great connection, and the audience is able to buy that. And at the end of the day, maybe that actor can walk out of that role a healthier person, getting their therapy for free.
But he and Kim's relationship goes sour as soon as filming begins.
He's 19, he's hot, he's Hollywood's it boy. It doesn't hurt that his co-star is Winona Ryder, who happens to be Hollywood's it girl, so a romance is inevitable.
Christian and Winona Ryder become an item while filming Heathers. This begins a pattern of Christian romancing almost all his leading ladies.
For a young man without an emotional literacy, it would certainly uncover his feelings, and the transference would be very difficult to find out where acting ends and where life begins.
While filming Heathers, Christian begins a new round of heavy drinking, which unleashes a monstrous, angry, uncontrolled side to the actor. Winona Ryder claims that one day during filming, she runs back to her trailer and locks the door, fearful of Christian, although it's never clear whether it was from his great acting or his drinking.
The problem is Christian's own demons when he gets angry or drunk or both. His role in Heathers probably isn't helping when it comes to his coping mechanisms.
When the film Heathers is released, it skyrockets Christian and Winona's careers into another realm. Basking in the cult success of the film, Christian's bad boy reputation is secured with his first run-in with the law. It's December 1989. Los Angeles police notice a Saab 900 driving fast and erratically through West Hollywood. They attempt to flag down Christian's car, but instead of pulling over, he begins a crazy car chase that ends with the young star crashing into 2 telephone poles, abandoning his vehicle, fleeing on foot, and finally kicking one of the officers in the face with his cowboy boots.
Addiction is a disease of ego, and one of the things that has to happen is the ego has to shrink into authenticity. Clearly, he wants to accentuate this image of being the drunk, cocky guy who's, all the things that are making him famous and making him rich in Hollywood are not working as well when reality starts and the movie is over.
He was only 20 years old. People were starting to look at him as being volatile and erratic, and in Hollywood, you can get away with a lot, just don't get caught.
It also sounds like just being a dumb kid. Boys are dumb. They don't get smart until they're 30. So I can't fault him for acting that way, especially when nobody is taking care of him.
Christian is charged with evading the police, driving under the influence of alcohol, driving with a suspended license, and assault with a deadly weapon, namely his cowboy boots.
At this point, Christian's pretty much out of control, and although his mother and his publicist did care, they had very little control over him and what he did. He did have a little brother named Ryan, and that is where he had a soft side. He wanted to do better, so he didn't look bad in Ryan's eyes. He didn't want to let his little brother down.
He is sentenced to 10 days in prison, which he serves 6 months later, starting in July 1990. For now, Hollywood chooses to turn a blind eye to Christian's misdemeanors.
It could be a wake-up call of sorts that you can't just skirt consequence totally. Although it also seems like a slap on the wrist. It's delayed for many months. This is all in Los Angeles. They'll let anybody off. They let OJ off. If you're a celebrity, that's everything in that place.
The 10-day stay behind bars is followed by a 90-day voluntary rehabilitation program, but Christian doesn't see it through.
Good going, Christian. Really good right up until the part where he checked himself out 7 days into that 90 days. Not such a good thing.
In order to be successful through rehab, you have to work your way all the way through, and you can't do it as a star. You have to do it as a patient, and it didn't happen on this time for Christian Slater, so the work was not done.
But it doesn't stop Christian from staying focused on building his Hollywood career.
Hollywood knows a good thing when they see it, even if that thing happens to be an alcoholic actor who is spiraling out of control.
In 1989, Christian is cast as a high school outcast who operates a pirate radio station in Pump Up the Volume. He sparks up a short-lived romance with co-star Samantha Mathis, as he had done the previous year with Winona Ryder. Pump Up the Volume director Alan Moyle says Christian has a built-in glee factor that gives him the ability to play dark characters with a sparkle in their eye.
He had this really dangerous bad boy side to him, but he also had a soft side, and you put that combination together, and a lot of girls came out of the woodwork and became his fan base, and he got away with a lot because he had that following.
Christian's next film is the big-budget Hollywood production of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Alongside heavy hitters Kevin Costner, Morgan Freeman, and Alan Rickman, Christian is playing with the big boys of Hollywood, and as usual, he's starstruck. This time with Morgan Freeman.
First day on the set, Christian hesitantly walks up to Morgan Freeman and introduces himself, says, "I think you're the greatest, I grew up watching you on Sesame Street," to which Morgan replied, "Thanks, but I wasn't on Sesame Street, it was the electric company."
I mean, when I read the script, it was one of the more difficult characters I've ever seen. I guess it's hard to play sort of an antagonistic character towards somebody like Robin Hood, you know? I mean, that's not the sort of enemy I really want to play.
Even though critics pan the big-budget film, it's a spectacular commercial success in 1991, taking in a whopping $390 million worldwide. At 22, Christian has reached the height of his acting career as one of Hollywood's A-list leading actors. Off-screen, his first run-in with the law seems to leave him unscathed.
When you have someone who's had many emotional issues that they have not worked through, and then you make them a superstar, what you end up with is a superstar who has a lot of emotional issues, drug abuse issues, as they did before, but now it's 10 times worse because you have the pressure of Hollywood, of adulation, of maintaining the money, the roles, and so on.
It's only a matter of time before all these things clash, and Christian Slater begins to spiral out of control. It's 1991, and Christian Slater seems to have put his bad boy days behind him and is basking in his Hollywood A-list status. He meets and falls in love with aspiring model screenwriter Nina Huang, and it appears to have a stabilizing influence on him. It looks like he's willing to settle down and get serious about rehabilitating himself. Christian seems to focus more on his long-term relationship than getting drunk or high. But his stability is very fragile. Anything and anyone can easily tip him over the edge.
Christian finally seems to be in control of his personal and professional life. Things are going really well, for now.
Trying to expand his range and move away from violent and dysfunctional roles, Christian accepts a role in True Romance, directed by Tony Scott and written by Quentin Tarantino. True Romance receives rave reviews. Critic Roger Ebert's review of Christian's performance creates a big buzz, saying Christian has the kind of cocky recklessness the movie needs. Off the success of True Romance in 1993, Christian's stardom takes on a new dimension. Cosmopolitan magazine names him Hollywood's most promising male star. Female fans are crazy about him. While filming a very steamy nude love scene with Patricia Arquette, Christian loses sight of his commitment with Nina Huang. Once again, Christian just can't help himself and has a short-lived affair with his co-star. Then tragedy brings opportunity for Christian. A month before filming is set to begin on the big screen adaptation of Interview with a Vampire, star River Phoenix collapses and dies of a drug overdose. His tragic death provides Christian with a role that becomes the highlight of his Hollywood career, despite the turbulence in his personal life.
The death of River Phoenix was tragic, especially because it was based on some sort of drug overdose. I think if nothing else, it was an eye-opener. It woke him up as to what could happen if he doesn't clean up his act.
Christian steps up and donates his vampire salary to charity in memory of River Phoenix. Interview with a Vampire grosses $223.6 million worldwide at the box office.
He's hot, he's the coolest young guy in Hollywood, he's back on top. Unfortunately, what happens next isn't so pretty.
Christian and Nina's battles with constant jealousy and insecurities are a lethal combination. The relationship can't stand the heat of Christian's extracurricular liaisons, the most famous being an affair with supermodel Christy Turlington that ends up plastered on the front pages of major fashion magazines.
These women sign on to this, they know what they're getting into, and then they act all victimized after it happens. Like, really? Oh my God, Christian Slater cheated on you? You're kidding.
Despite Christian's infidelity over the years with Nina, he is heartbroken when the relationship ends.
This relationship really worked for him because he really loved the drama and all the excitement in the relationship, and he did manage to stay sober throughout.
But after 5 years of sobriety, Christian's disappointment and hurt from his failed relationship is what finally pushes him over the edge.
We all have difficulty with breakups, even when you really, okay, go ahead, take your stuff and go, but it's still hard. And so I think that would definitely trigger him to spiral into using substances, partying harder or looking for a new girlfriend. All those kinds of behaviors would be consistent with the pain of breaking up.
Alone in his West Hollywood home one evening with a bottle of champagne, Christian starts drinking again. Crossing the point of no return, he then proceeds to go out and tear up the town.
There's no one who can kind of keep Christian from spiraling out of control. Not his publicist, not his mother. I mean, really, they can't do anything but sit back and watch it unfold in the tabloids.
En route to Los Angeles in December 1994, Christian is arrested while boarding a commercial plane at New York's JFK. He has a gun in his carry-on luggage and is charged with possession of a weapon. Christian forgets to tell baggage control about the 6.5mm Beretta handgun and the 6 rounds of ammunition he stashed in his black carry-on nylon bag. Authorities discover the gun is unregistered, and Christian doesn't have the federal permit required to transport it from state to state. Christian spends 2 hours in a holding cell at Queens Criminal Court. He pleads guilty to attempted weapon possession. His lawyers reach a plea bargain agreement that requires him to spend 3 days working with homeless children.
Technically, he got caught with a gun. He didn't get caught really hurting anybody. The criminal courts are kind of in the rehabilitative mode. So if you didn't really hurt anybody, if you're kind of in trouble in your life, then they're going to take a rehabilitative stance and say, look, you're headed in the wrong direction. So we're going to extend your probation. We're not going to send you to jail.
This was a pre-9/11 arrest, so people's attitude toward carrying weapons really wasn't quite what it is now, and Christian Slater did not have a violent past, which probably accounts for the fact why the sentence was relatively light. On a first-time offender, it's not unusual to see someone get a relatively light sentence.
You're only relevant in Hollywood as long as you've got a job going, and to stay in the news when you're not working, you pretty much have to do something wrong. So it's a double-edged sword here.
To make matters worse, Christian's ex-girlfriend Nina Wong sues him for palimony and wants half of what Christian earned during the 5 years they lived together.
Divorce in Hollywood is so common that it's actually expected. So there's not much damage control that was needed for the divorce. The damage control came in the lawsuit because there were actually 2 camps. Those that thought of her as a gold-digging bitch, and those that thought of him as a guy that was trying to cheat his wife out of what she deserved, even though they weren't really married.
Christian pays Wong a settlement that has never been disclosed publicly. And it seems that Hollywood executives are no longer ignoring his behavior.
He's being offered roles in movies that are clearly not going to be blockbusters, like Murder in the First and Bed of Roses.
Critics pan Christian's performance in Bed of Roses as unconvincing and the portrayal of his character as soupy and immature. Rumors are that Christian is suffering from a serious depression over the roles he's being offered and using alcohol and drugs to anesthetize the beast he calls his fears, insecurities, and self-hatred.
I wake up with anxiety and fear all the time.
Christian's alcoholism and drug problems rise up like a violent tornado set to destroy everything in its wake. Can his now waning Hollywood career survive more destruction? Christian Slater's life has taken a downward turn, driven by the breakup of his relationship with Nina Wong and Hollywood's growing lack of interest in casting him in leading roles. Everything starts to spiral out of control. Director John Woo cast Christian in Broken Arrow alongside John Travolta. The action film takes in a cool $70 million, but Christian's emotional tailspin is hard for producers to ignore. Christian has to keep making a living, so he's forced to take roles on B-rated films and low-budget independent films.
At this point, it's pretty clear he's not the leading man. His career maybe is in a little bit of a slump. His demons have gotten the better of him.
If he's not going to address the problem in a real way and he's going to avoid the problem, it just gets worse. It's like dodging the IRS. They just keep compounding the interest that you owe them. They don't go away.
The week of August 7th, 1997, witnesses say Christian is seen drinking straight shots of tequila at a strip club. On the night of October 10th, Christian is partying heavily with then-girlfriend fashion editor Michelle Jonas, Jacques Peterson, and his girlfriend Petra Brando at Peterson's apartment on Wilshire Boulevard in LA. Christian has been snorting large amounts of cocaine and injecting heroin. Peterson and his girlfriend Petra have gone to bed, but Christian and Michelle get into a violent fight. Christian sits on her and begins repeatedly hitting her in the face.
One of the things that alcohol does specifically is heightens emotion. So lots of people who are not ordinarily violent can become violent if they've been drinking too much and over a prolonged period of time. So it really is the alcohol.
Peterson wakes up after hearing Michelle's screams and tries to stop Christian, who turns violently on him. Before leaving Peterson's apartment, Christian, in a drug-induced panic, attempts to jump off the 14th floor balcony, but is pulled to safety. 2 police officers arrive on the scene and find Christian half-dressed and in a delusional rant. When police officer Julio Flores attempts to restrain Christian, the actor shoves the officer violently and tries to snatch his gun. The police finally get the kicking and screaming star under control. He is handcuffed, shackled in ankle restraints, and taken into custody.
At this point, it appears Christian Slater has hit rock bottom, and if he doesn't get help, then his next step is either to jail, to a psychiatric hospital, or death.
He is charged with 3 counts of assault and 1 of battery on his girlfriend, on Peterson, and on the arresting officer. Christian is released on $500,000 bail.
Christian knows he's majorly messed up and he needs to get help.
This is a very difficult time for Christian Slater, and at this time we see a lot of celebrities getting involved with the police, and I guess the fame really does, play tricks with the mind. So jail at this point is a good thing for him. Getting arrested at this point is a good thing for him. Look what it did for Robert Downey Jr.
Because he's a multiple offender from his earlier DUI offense, Christian could be facing serious jail time. His lawyer pleads no contest to the assault charges, which is equivalent to Christian finally taking responsibility for his actions.
Following this conviction, Christian Slater is sentenced to 90 days in jail, followed by 3 months of inpatient rehab. This is actually not a very light sentence.
The prosecution insists the actor begin his sentence right away and enroll in a 1-year treatment program for abusers.
This kind of a public display is not something that you usually see in the Hollywood elite. He had had a lot of friends that have died from drug overdoses, so the media just went absolutely nuts over this one because they wanted to show it, and his career just took a nosedive after this incident.
Christian leaves his luxurious Hollywood Hills home and checks into Laverne City Jail on January 14, 1998. He is stripped of his movie star identity and enters a world where he is treated no differently than the criminal in the next cell. Cleaning cells, mopping, sweeping, and washing police cruisers become his regular chores. After 59 days, Christian is released on good behavior.
I've spent my life trying to live up to a projected image, and I think I just lost myself and I made some mistakes, and I'm just in the process of cleaning the mess up and taking responsibility for that.
Promises Rehab Facility is Christian's next stop. He has permission from the courts to start working again while in rehab. Christian is cast in Very Bad Things, playing yet another psychotic, dysfunctional character. The Hollywood bad boy is considered the perfect choice for the dark role.
He really seems to want to hold on to that ego about himself. And so that really is almost like a drug, that he can't stop doing these things, even for 30 days. Really, you can't be in treatment for 30 days and not do one of these crazy roles. So whoever let him out to do this movie in treatment should have their license taken away. That's absurd.
Very Bad Things is basically a bachelor party in Vegas. There are hookers, there are drugs, there's partying, all the things that could lead to disaster.
The movie's released in 1998.
Very Bad Things was one of those flops. Yes, he was working, but this is typecasting at its worst.
I'm in this business because I love movies, I love entertainment, so even when they're not good, I still get something out of it.
What people soon realize is that doing this movie is actually a reminder for Christian to stay on the right side of the line. What scares him the most at this time in his life is screwing up again and slipping back into a drunken oblivion. Romance finds Christian once again, this time not on set, but in rehab.
Christian's time in prison and rehab seems to have calmed him down. He's even said that prison was good for him because he had to take time out for himself. Now, however, his girlfriend, Ryan Haddon, is also a recovering addict.
What we see is this idea of codependency, where you support each other in your dependency. So even if you're sober, if things kind of go south emotionally, there's some sort of a crisis, that not only do you drift into drug dependency, but the other person may drift with you or support you into that dependency in a very negative and destructive way.
But after almost 2 years of dating, Christian's relationship with actress Ryan Haddon turns more serious with the birth of their first child, Jaden Christopher, in 1999. The following year, he marries Ryan, and shortly after their second child, Eliana Sophia, is born. Christian embraces fatherhood and marriage.
Christian gives credit to his new wife, Ryan, for dispelling his bad boy reputation and giving him some serenity in his life, finally.
While completing the 12-step program for his addictions, Christian starts to give back, speaking to kids about being a movie star and messing his life up with alcohol and drugs.
Certainly by talking to kids about how drugs and alcohol destroyed his life, not only was a cautionary tale for children, but was a catharsis for him, was a way to accept what he had done to himself. And this was great because he couldn't go any further down.
When an alcoholic says that they're going to change their life, they're being very sincere. It doesn't mean that they can do it, and it doesn't mean that they can sustain it, but the intention is often very sincere.
Christian's mission to revive his Hollywood career proves to be an uphill battle. He lands mediocre roles in movies such as Hard Cash and Masked and Anonymous that are both critically and commercially disappointing. In a wise move designed to bolster his career, Christian does a couple of episodes of the television series Alias and The West Wing in 2002 and 2003.
Christian's not getting the plum movie roles anymore, so doing really popular TV is a very good move for him. It keeps him working, it keeps him relevant, and it keeps him in the business that he knows and he's really good at.
But Christian and Ryan begin having marital problems, and on November 10, 2003, get into a violent argument in a suite at the Hard Rock Hotel in Las Vegas. Allegedly, Ryan throws a glass at Christian. Later, witnesses see him stumble out of an elevator, his face bleeding. Ryan is arrested, and Christian receives 9 stitches. The Las Vegas episode was the beginning of the end of their troubled marriage. They separate in 2005 and later divorce in 2007. The separation seems to push him into a serious relapse yet again. On a drunken spree in New York City in 2005, it's claimed that Christian randomly grabs a woman's behind on the street. He is arrested for third-degree sexual abuse. With Lady Luck on his side, the charges are dropped on condition he keeps out of trouble for 6 months.
Is he grounded? Did the judge ground him like he's 15 for his bad behavior? It's just a stupid thing. At this point, he's a grown man. We feel sorry for you about your upbringing, but at some point, you have to take personal responsibility for your own life, and he's clearly not doing this in 2005.
Although it seems that Christian is experiencing another downward personal and career spiral, he lands a choice role that will change his life again. Christian Slater has just narrowly avoided more jail time after charges that he drunkenly assaulted a woman in New York are dropped. Reeling from the breakup of his relationship, Christian leaves the U.S. and returns to the theater. He lands a choice role in a London stage production of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Christian receives a standing ovation on opening night and rave reviews for the 8-month run.
The success of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest has everyone comparing him to Jack Nicholson once again, and this is a huge plus for Christian.
The experience is so gratifying that Christian moves back to New York and is cast in a lead role on Broadway in The Glass Menagerie opposite Jessica Lange. In 2006, Christian makes his return to the big screen when Emilio Estevez offers him the part of the Ambassador Hotel restaurant manager in his directorial debut, Bobby. It's a cast loaded with A-list stars.
This is the kind of movie where, I would have been happy to show up and deliver coffee, really. Meeting Anthony Hopkins, he set the example of what it's like to be a great movie star, incredible gentleman at the same time.
The following year, he takes on a familiar role of a twisted, dark character in the indie film He Was a Quiet Man. Critics are blown away by Christian's intense and complex performance, stating he seems to disappear into his role.
I never really immersed myself in quite this way into a character. I mean, I always like to get into characters, but this one required a lot of physical characteristics and a lot of changes that I've never had to do before.
He then turns to television again, taking a 9-episode series lead on NBC's My Own Worst Enemy in 2008. From stage to film to television, Christian is yet again showcasing his talent and flexing his performance muscle. He's back.
His strategy to relaunch his career is to come clean and admit that he's grateful his mistakes didn't hurt or kill anyone.
Christian actually gave a statement that I think was extremely mature. He talked about how he had been doing this since he was 8 years old, and this is all he had ever done, and he had been a celebrity most of his life. And when you are a celebrity, you begin to think that you can act any way you want, off camera, with no consequences.
Christian states that what's most important for him now is to look his kids in the eye and feel they are looking back at somebody who is making an effort to take care of himself and be a better person. Maintaining his sobriety, Christian makes a list of the things he feels haunt him and make him feel insecure. He doesn't want to spend his life saying, "I am just the victim of this stuff." High on his list is finishing high school. In 2010, Christian receives his diploma.
Most people would think of this as very high risk for somebody in his position, but I think a lot of people were proud of him.
It wasn't just about getting the high school degree, it really was about going through the experience and completing a part of his life that he walked away from, and that's part of the healing path.
Moving forward, Christian seems to be adding more television and film projects to his list. He's finally putting his wild and insane days behind him and is on the road to healing his troubled past.
Hopefully the old Christian is gone forever, but the new and improved Christian is here. And with the PR team that Christian Slater had, which is absolutely top of the line, it's amazing when you see how much came out in the news about the things he did. But I've always wondered what was there that got squashed.
2013 is a big comeback year for Christian. He marries girlfriend Brittany Lopez, and renowned director Lars von Trier casts him in his film Nymphomaniac.
Nymphomaniac gives him the opportunity to work with a top international director, Lars von Trier, and more importantly, it gets him back on the big screen.
The once notorious wild child actor is finally finding the peace and stability he has yearned for his entire life.
Christian Slater seems like something of a success story in that it didn't require many, many, many stints in jail and many, many stints in rehab to get him to get the message.
Christian Slater may have climbed quickly and fallen just as fast, but many feel he still has a long and illustrious career ahead of him.
Given his personal history and his struggles, Christian deserves a lot of credit, I think, for owning up to a lot of his mistakes and for also learning from them. He's said that because he's gone through it, he's willing to reach out to people either on the phone or email if he knows that they're going through something similar. It seems like he has a lot of empathy.
It seems like he has grown up, and he may not be the movie draw that he was when he was young, but he's still a fantastic actor, and he has a wonderfully bright future ahead of him.